If the rumors are to be believed, someone won't survive this season. But who's staying? And who won't be coming back to Firehouse 51? Meanwhile, which member of the Chicago Fire cast started their own on-set biker gang? And who likes to live dangerously by stealing other people's sandwiches? Hi, I'm Peter, and you're watching Behind the Scenes Secrets on OSSA.
Background! Action!
It turns out that nobody loves those crossovers. Yes, friends, the first secret we're going to share is a point of contention for the cast. While fans love the way the Chicago Fire universe expands with each new spin-off, finding great fun watching characters jump from one show to the other, the truth is that it's only a pleasure for the viewers. As showrunner Olmsted revealed, it's a scheduling, I don't want to say nightmare, but it's like Jenga, and people are working it out. Can you imagine how insanely hard it was to give you that 3-hour crossover at the beginning of Season 8? It was so difficult, in fact, that producer Dick Wolf reluctantly admitted that nobody likes the process. Wolf said that the process is horrible. They shoot Saturdays, it's very complicated, and there's always a lot more reshooting. Season 8's huge crossover saw people working 16 days straight without a day off, mostly due to the countless reshoots. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some great benefits too. Besides the crossover being a hit in its own right, the whole cast getting together also means that it's good business for Chicago Fire, Med, and PD. And let's not forget Dick Wolf and NBC, so yes, it's a lot of work, but it quite literally pays off. The next scene of the series we're calling Real Feel, since we're going to show you just how real things can get on set. Chicago Fire always strives to be as true and realistic as possible when portraying the lives and situations that firefighters face. But there was a time when the show went too far. One day, a real Chicago fire station received frantic calls about a plane that had crashed on 29th and Martin Luther King Drive. Some photos were even sent over to show just how serious the damage was. So you can imagine the shock when they found out that it was a pre-staged set for the TV series. And while the plane crash might not have been real, the firehouse we see in the series certainly is. It's a genuine working Chicago Fire Department firehouse and is the headquarters of Station 18. But of course, some parts are stage sets, like the Firehouse 51 kitchen. Here's a trick in case you're ever wondering if a scene is staged or the genuine article. If there's a door to the left of the cooking area in the scene, then it's the studio set. But if there's a drinking fountain to the left, that's the real firehouse. And the confusion about what's real and what's not even extends to the title of the show. For the first couple of years, Chicago locals were often confused when they heard the name of the series, as it actually shares its name with a major local sports team, the Chicago Fire Soccer Club. Taylor Kinney shared that during his first couple of years of work, if he ever mentioned that he was part of Chicago Fire, people would immediately ask him if he was a soccer player. I hope Kinney brushed up on his knowledge of the offside rule. There's one more thing you probably didn't spot while watching the show, and that's good, as it means they were doing their jobs properly. I'm talking, of course, about the extras. You know, all those people in the background. And if you think they're just actors, you'd be wrong. It turns out that a lot of the extras who play firefighters are actual firefighters in real life. Co-creator Michael Brandt says he does everything he can to include as many real heroes as possible. And he also shared that the firefighters even help out the prop department by bringing their own gear and hoses. Sometimes real firefighters bring their whole family to the set, like one excited father from the southwest suburbs who brought his wife and their young daughter to filming, even though they had to get up at 2:30 in the morning just to make it to set on time. And some characters from the cast were written based on real people and real personalities. You might find it hard to believe, but the real Chief Bowden sometimes visits the set to consult with Eamon Walker.
You're a real firefighter.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
For 36 years, I was. Yeah.
So
Chief Bowden is based off of him.
But if you wanted to play a part of an injured victim, it might not be as easy as you think, because you actually need to be very qualified to be a part of these specialist scenes. According to producers, essentially every episode has at least 2 characters with a gruesome malady, you know, either stuck, squished, or with something poking out of their eye, their neck, or their head. And to portray that naturally, you need to have actual skills. Simon, the casting director, even joked that he promised producers that he would start an acting clash called smushed acting. As peculiar as it might sound, there really is a technique to auditioning and portraying someone whose, hands a nail gun to a wall, who has a tuning fork sticking out of their eye. So the next time you see a victim on Chicago Fire, pay attention to how good he or she is at smooshed acting. Enough of the extras, time to reveal some cast secrets. Fans probably already know that the Chicago Fire team has become a tight-knit family in very much the same way as real-life fire stations, but the cast have their very own special bonding ritual that involves a little bit of extra adrenaline. It turns out some stars have started roaming the Chicago streets together on motorcycles. Eamon Walker, Taylor Kinney, and Monica Raymond all like to don their helmets of a morning and enjoy wild rides together before they arrive on set. Walker commented that now the trio have their own little biker gang. And I'll bet it sure beats morning coffee for getting you energized before you arrive on set. Meanwhile, Christian Stolt has secrets of his own. Do you remember when Mouch found out about his daughter Lizzie and Forgive You Anything way back in season 3? Well, Mouch might have been nervous to meet his little girl, but in real life, the two actors were already very well acquainted. Yes, the cast is full of secrets, but the most important secret has to be, who's the biggest troublemaker in the Chicago Fire cast? Thanks to TVGuide.com, we now know the answer to this question. Their reporters visited the set of Chicago Fire and asked the cast about who's the worst on-set prankster. And believe it or not, the answers were unbelievably consistent. All the stars immediately pointed their fingers at David Eigenberg. So why is David the guilty suspect? Well, first of all, he constantly steals lunch from his co-stars.
It just happened to me. He stole my lunch.
Eigenberg himself even confessed to the crime, though he claims some pretty hilarious extenuating circumstances, joking that it's because I'm little. And that's not all. When the cast was asked about who's the most likely to start a real fire on set, David's name came up again. And it wasn't one person casting this aspersion, it was everyone. Joe Minoso even went so far as to call David Eigenberg David Eigenburn.
So I not only did I make a reference to his name
Yes.
and pun on the question,
Yes.
but I also burned him in the process. Oh!
So it seems like David is kind of chaotic with his on-set energy. We wonder why. Perhaps when he's at his bar on set, he gets to sample some of his own supply? No, I'm just kidding. In fact, even though he owns a bar on the show, David is teetotal. So he really has no excuse for all his wild behavior. Spoiler alert, if you missed this season's premiere, skip ahead. The handy timestamps in the description of the video will help. But for the rest of you, we're going to reveal the mystery of Otis's departure. You didn't see that coming, did you? Well, neither did we. A longtime series regular, adored by fans, leaving the series in a shocking twist. Screenwriter Derek Haas explained that Otis's sudden death was a very necessary step for the series, needed to remind the viewers of the risky reality of a firefighter's job. We gotta put some teeth back into the show, and we gotta show that the dangers are real. I'm not happy saying this, but man, they really did achieve their goal. Yuri Sadarov himself wrote his own heartwarming goodbye to his character in a post on Twitter and on Instagram. A fond farewell to Otis, he'll forever be my friend. More so, he even added a small poem. But do you know who we think will miss Otis the most? Well, here's another secret for you. Monica Raymond. Why? Well, because according to the actress, Yuri gives the best massage she's ever had in Chicago. And that's surely another twist you didn't see coming. And while Yuri now has plenty of free time to perfect his massage technique, Haas also confessed that it was really tough for him to tell Sadarov what was going to happen to his character, but on the other hand, it was a great pleasure to call Kara Kilmer and literally change her life. When Kilmer received the offer, she was working at a jewelry counter at Chicago Galleria, so that day probably ended up being one of the happiest in her entire career so far. The last secret we're going to disclose is about the finale to Season 8. You probably think you've gotten used to all the dramatic twists and turns that have happened on Chicago Fire over the years. Some characters may die, some may leave, but you'd likely never expect that this would happen to one of the main characters. But which one? Well, taking recent comments from Fire showrunner Derek Haas into account, fans have started to worry about the very real possibility that either Severide or Casey will be leaving us very soon. Here's how we found out. An unsuspecting fan posted a very normal question on Twitter. What can we expect to see with Severide and Casey in the upcoming season? But the answer Haas gave shocked everyone. They won't both be at 51 before the winter break, the showrunner revealed. What? Alarm bells went off across the fandom almost immediately. Going straight to the source, Kinney and Spencer found themselves fielding a barrage of questions about this crucial news, and here's how they responded. Taylor Kinney mysteriously commented that the squad had been Severide's dream when he was young because he had wanted to be a firefighter just like his father. And just like his character, Kinney assured us that that's where he'd like to be as well. However, he then added that while he isn't opposed to making advancements in his career, he hopes it doesn't take him out of the firehouse. Well, we definitely hope so too. Spencer, meanwhile, didn't clarify the situation at all, but thankfully, one fan theory has made Haas's comments seem a lot less serious. It really could just be a tricky play on words by the wordsmith. When you read it literally, it could easily mean that Severide isn't going to be at Firehouse 51 physically because he'll be out of town enjoying a sweet honeymoon with Stellar Kid. You can't trick us with your devious plan to drive up the ratings, Haas. We know that you wouldn't take Severide and Casey away from us. Right? Do you have the inside scoop on any other spicy details or unrevealed secrets from Chicago Fire? Dare to share them with us in the comments below. And, as always, thanks for staying awesome.